Hi guys, today we're going to be breaking down Fenny, who actually looks really crazy for more reason than one. However, before I get into it, I do want to apologize. I am still recovering. I'm getting better. Thank you for those of you that were concerned. But also, I'm going to be testing out a new mic setup, as you could probably tell on my mouth right now. Without further ado, though, let's break down Fenny and why I think she has probably one of the coolest looking designs that we've seen in a minute. Now, the first thing that we need to talk about with Fenny specifically is, well, her design. And what can I say? If you take a look at it, I mean, come on, guys. Really? You know what I mean? It's quite a unique looking character, to be honest, but truthfully, what I would say is that this character has one of the most interesting kits in theory, just because it's a Soul Weaver who is an actual DPS, not like a Soul Weaver akin to Death Dealer Ray, who, you know, may use something like Venom or some injury mechanic to deal damage, though she does still use injury in her kit. Let's actually break down what we're looking at here, though. In particular, when we look at Fenny, we see that, number one, she has a self-steroid for crit chance, which is pretty cool. But in addition to this, she has decent speed, she's got decent health, and honestly, that's about where it ends in terms of stats. Now, if we actually go to the S3 itself, as you can see, this is I want to say it's one of the few concepts in the game that we have currently where the caster or a caster will grief themselves or harm themselves to deal additional damage to the enemy. And in this case, it's 15% of the caster's current health. And it also inflicts injuries against the enemy, which will then yield, well, kind of a nuke. And if you take a look at the little showcase that you see here right now, they use it against a Blood Moon Haste whose defense broken, and okay, it does 32,000 damage. Now, interestingly, again, she appears to be a character that also gives herself rage, as we'll see in a moment, but this is alongside the critical hit chance increase that she gains, and also having a revive with a 30% healing, or I think it's 50% when she comes back, and this is alongside a barrier to the caster for 2 turns. Now, this is similar to Ruel, where this is a revive buff once per turn, or once per game, rather. However, interesting to note here is that the barrier that she gains increases, I should say, or scales proportional to the caster's attack. Now, again, interesting to note as well is that her S1 is also another injury-based attack. However, it reads that when it's on the caster's turn, if the caster is enraged, you activate Embrace as an additional attack, and the amount that you recover is proportional to the caster's max HP and attack. So, as it stands right here, it feels like she is a dual scaling kind of character. As we'll see in the showcase in a moment, she actually was built in the showcase for basically being decent HP with no assessment currently for how much attack she had, but it was interesting. Now, let's actually talk about this Proof of Love artifact, which is obviously her own designed one, and it's pretty much only designed for her specifically right now. As you can tell, the increased crit chance is decent, and as it reads, after a single attack, a critical hit injures equivalent to damage dealt up to 12% of the target's max HP. Now, honestly, this is a pretty cool sounding concept for an artifact, for artifacts in general, but given that it's limited to Soul Weavers specifically, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anyone that specifically can utilize all parts of this artifact. Maybe someone like Sharoon or something could maybe use some aspect of it for injuries, but it is what it is. Now, something I do want to also mention here, and actually I believe I skipped it, but you can take a look at the amount of damage that this actually ended up dealing. This is about 4.5k into another 9k, which, again, roughly speaking, and especially against an Ilanov, or I should say, yeah, in general, against an Ilanov, doing something like 14,000 damage is pretty cool, especially with how much damage or with how much health the Fenny has right now, which is at about 15,000. You can assume that roughly at max she's in that maybe like 22 to like maybe 25k HP max, assuming, she, I guess, were maxed. That's around how much HP she has. But again, because of the way that she scales and the increased attack and speed proportional to the caster's injuries, which again is also another really cool aspect that she has, her damage is kind of all over the place and her scaling's a bit all over the place. But my first impressions is that the kit or the concept of the kit is pretty cool. Now, I apologize because, again, I was a bit all over the place here. But something that was also showcased with Fenny is this new rift that we're being introduced to. Now, there are a couple of mechanics of the rift that I don't quite understand, even after watching it for a little bit. But from what I've gathered, given that this is another character that is being shown alongside a Rift character, there's a good chance that this is going to be the selling character or the sold character that they will try to be pushing alongside the new Rift. Now, based on what we're seeing right now, it looks like it's another Rift where you are forced to use all of one specific element, and this time around it's a water boss or a water-only taking boss, though the boss, Xeon himself, is dark. Now, again, in terms of what we saw from the showcase itself, yeah, she does a decent amount of damage, and as you'll see in a moment here, against the boss, this is 148,000 damage, which is, well, that's roughly an entire bar. Now, whether or not this is a character that will be exclusively designed for PvE or PvP is kind of up in the air, though I do want to mention that despite this, they did also showcase Fenny in, of course, in PvP as well, as we saw against some of the other characters. Excuse me. One thing that I'm not a huge fan of, typically when they do the PvP showcase, is when they have really unusual or odd-looking characters on our side, or on the attacking side or the showcase side. And for me personally, I don't know in what universe you would have Luluka and Fire Tenebria and Specimen Says alongside this new Fenny character, though admittedly this team does deal with what I would consider to be a relatively realistic looking enemy team. That being said, though, the builds, the setup, and all this that you can tell from that you would be able to infer from the fight are kind of neither here nor there, just because, again, look, like, we've got a 22,000 Fenny. We don't know how much attack she has. We don't know if the, if the damage here from from haste is enough. And actually, wait, based on what we're seeing right here, that damage was, it was okay, but honestly not amazing. Now, again, I won't even talk about Specimen Says because, hey, it's Specimen Says, but based on my initial findings or thoughts about her, I will say, number one, her design looks really cool, and number two, I am really interested in this new direction that they're going with the character kits, which is, well, sometimes a character doesn't have to be so generic, though, admittedly, I am very much on the side currently after Harsetti of introducing characters that are wild or maybe unique, but not necessarily wild or unique where the rest of the game now transforms dramatically for the rest of our career just because of it. In any case, though, guys, Fenny, I think, is an interesting addition to epicseven. I don't think she's game-breaking. I think the damage that she has is likely going to be what a lot of people fixate on. This reverse injury scaling that she has, I think, is personally an interesting concept and one that I'll be keeping an eye on. But otherwise, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. And yeah, thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you all in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.